In a series, I'm going to talk about self-sabotaging behavior of the characters from season 1. If you don't know anything about Love is Blind, basically there are 15 men and 15 women. They go into pods, and pods are the 2 rooms separated with a wall so that the contestants cannot see each other. 15 men and women date each other sight unseen, and they propose in the end or don't propose. Then they get to see each other and they go on a honeymoon. They get to see if they have any physical attraction besides all the emotional connection. And in the end, we see them in the altar. Some of them say, yes, I do. And some of them says, no, I don't. And like in a lot of reality shows, there are some parts that it is programmed and it's like scenarios and stuff like that. But the reactions, word choices, and ups and downs that the contestants go through, they are real. I am not a clinical psychologist or therapist. I am not diagnosing anybody here. And what I am telling you is completely built on what I see. There are edits and cuts, and so we don't see the full story. They are not my clients, so I don't know their history. So what I'm doing here is purely for self-help reasons. I want you to see some patterns, and maybe you can see them in you and you can heal from them. By the way, if you hate spoilers, please don't watch this, because I'm going to talk about the whole story of season 1, Love is Blind. Now, to give a very backstory, if you don't watch Love is Blind, that's fine. Jessica is one of the contestants in this show, and she is actively dating with 2 people, Mark and Barnett. Mark is 24-year-old a fitness instructor, and Barnett is 27-year-old engineer. At the very, very beginning, the dating part, let's see what Jessica's first impression was about Barnett.
I like Barnett's sexy voice and laugh a lot. I kind of like that he gave off a vibe that he was a player.
So Jessica says, I like the fact that Barnett gives this player vibes and his voice is sexy. So if you are there for a committed relationship, these are not the first things that you need to look for, right? Especially if I get player vibe from someone, I would say like, no, cross that out. So that makes us think first. I will come to the self-sabotage part. Don't worry, guys. We are coming there. Now, let's look at Jessica's first impressions of Mark. So she says, my last relationship, I was with a 41-year-old man, and Jessica is 34 years old. And here she confesses that, you know, in my last long relationship, I was with a man who was 41 years old, and I feel like I fast forwarded it, and I am afraid that you will feel the same way.
I'm learning things about myself, and I'm realizing there are things I'm looking for that I didn't even know I was looking for. So this set of guidelines that I came in with, I want someone between, these ages and somebody who's into this. The guy that I'm into meets zero of those criteria. For me, that age gap had to be like the most real, like crazy connection.
So the age gap is very important for Jessica. These kind of hard to break beliefs that we have are not good for us, because they are the big obstacles that we made ourselves believe in our journey of life somehow, somewhere with some trauma, and then we stick to them so badly, so blindly, that actually kind of prevents us from living our lives. So this age gap thing is something really important, and from the very beginning she says that this might be an issue. I need a crazy connection to overcome this age difference.
Mark is 5 years younger than my baby brother. 5 years younger than me.
Mark is 5 years younger than my baby brother. That's what she says. She still keeps going on the age, and she's going to talk about age difference a lot in this show.
Mark is everything I've ever wanted, and he wants to walk away from this being married, and it's hard for me to accept that he feels that way for me. Something in the back of my mind is like, can this really work in the real world? Our age difference is massive.
But what makes me wonder here is like Barnett is 27 years old. It's still 7 years younger. And you talked about 24-year-old Mark as like being 10 years younger. I mean, there's not much difference between 7 and 10 years, if you ask me. So I believe there is much more going on here than the age difference. I have a theory here which I want to share with you. In episode 8, Mark prepares this genius date for Jessica, and they talk behind a wall. And this was the first time Jessica opens up. So apparently she needs that wall, she needs that barrier in order to open up to Mark.
Something about being in this pod-like scenario brings down the walls and you just open up.
Anyways, the most important part here is what Jessica said.
When I was born, my mom she just turned 20 actually, and she was a virgin until she was married. She met this guy, he was like 23. And they decided to get married. So then she got pregnant. Their marriage obviously was not good. You would think that a couple that was married would be excited about having a baby, but apparently he was not. So he wanted her to have an abortion, and she refused to do that. So he said he didn't really want to hang around for it.
Yeah.
You can see that this is still affecting her. And when you think about the age of her father, he was 23 when they got married, and then she got pregnant. I'm assuming he would be at the age of Mark's age, 24. And I think this is why it's bothering her so much, rather than the 7 age difference with Barnett. This 10 years difference is not the only issue here. The issue is Mark is reminding her father, and she is so sure that she's gonna be abandoned by Mark. When you're so sure about something like that, you try to sabotage that relationship so that before that person hurts you, you try to get away from that situation. Because our brains are hardwired to survive and avoid pain.
I definitely have abandonment and detachment issues. Just always knowing that there was someone from the beginning that didn't take an interest in my life, I think that stayed with me.
And here, she even confesses that she has abandonment and detachment issues. So here we go. Let's go back to the beginning episodes. You realize probably that Jessica was drinking a lot. She was consuming wine too much, maybe. And when you look at abusing alcohol or food or emotional eating, emotional drinking, things that we find problematic relationship with mother between 0 to 2 years old. These are called oral years because basically we are breastfed, and the whole connection that we know between our mother and us as a baby. And if you are having issue between these first 2 years, then you tend to build up more problems with drinking and eating in the future. This problem doesn't necessarily mean that your mom must be crazy or must deny milk or doesn't necessarily mistreat you, but if your mother was sad, upset about something, the baby feels that. And the way that she's talking about is that her mom was left behind because she denied abortion and she was abandoned. So with that abandonment feeling, upsetness and sadness, she fed her baby. Maybe she was even crying when she was breastfeeding Jessica. So this is the time that we build this oral fixation with drinking or eating junk food. Okay, let's go back. In episode 2, Jessica is confused. Jessica is between Barnett and Mark. She openly tells this to Mark. I'm confused. You know, I'm also thinking about Barnett and I don't know what to do. And then Mark is like, wait a minute, you know, till yesterday everything was fine, what's happening? And then Jessica goes like this.
I get it, you want to weigh out all your options and be certain. I'm certain, you were certain when you walked out yesterday.
I am going to be open and honest with you.
Okay.
You're 10 years younger than I am. Like, it's crazy.
Which is, again, I think lying to herself, because 10 years, between 10 years and 7 years is not much of a difference. It's just Mark's age is the problem. And please look where she positioned herself when she was talking about this. behind the sofa. So you get behind the sofa because you want to put a barrier between you and Mark, which is funny because you guys already have a wall, but that is a protective barrier, which is very interesting because she does the same thing during the proposal. She knew that he was going to propose because in the show, I think they know because they dress up, and she is behind the sofa again. And remember, she was very open to Mark when there was a barrier. So she does have this problem opening up, which is okay, but getting so much defensive about someone who you love is not really healthy. Then what happens is, because Barnett told Jessica that I would propose you tomorrow if nobody were here or something like that. This is a kind of a proposal for Jessica, so she just wants to make sure after talking to Mark that she is on the right path, and she asks Barnett again, like, were you serious about what you said yesterday? Are you still thinking the same way? She just wants to double check. But then she gets an answer that she doesn't like. Let's look.
I don't know.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Here, he's being honest. He's like, I don't know how I feel. I'm trying to differentiate between feeling good and loving someone.
Okay. I feel like I should go
Why?
because I don't fuck with people like you.
What does that mean?
Like, I'm not playing this game with you.
I'm not trying to play games. I'm trying to feel everything out right now.
Like, I know a million guys like you.
That's a load of shit.
I know a million guys like you. Generalization again. I feel like Jessica does this again as a defense mechanism, but I don't think that works in her favor.
You don't know what you want. And that's what a million people have told me.
That's what I'm here trying to do, though.
That's okay, well, then you can try to do it with somebody else, because I'm fucking over this.
I like you.
I'm not even entertaining this conversation. This is embarrassing.
So this reaction is a self-sabotage, because this act, and afterwards you will see her, getting drowned in wine and talking to Amber when she was a little bit intoxicated. And that behavior tells us there's a deep wound there was kind of touched. So abandonment and detachment issues that she was talking about is kicking in here. So when you realize a person is saying that I'm not sure about our relationship, you need to kind of go deep and try to understand what his reservations are and try to see if that's valid or not for both of you, and try to make more connections if you can. But I don't do this, I don't play these games with you and stuff like that is the fear of abandonment. It's like, okay, it's happening again, and let's get out of this, kind of run away. If maybe Jessica did not give this reaction, they could have continued dating and it could have been different. What lesson we should learn from this, guys? When you're having hard conversations, when you feel rejected, please look at your reaction. Where is your reaction coming from? Is it coming from a trauma? Is it coming from a fear caused by trauma, or are they validated, authentic feelings of yours? Now in episode 3, what happens? Mark proposes, as you know, and the proposal is accepted. And let's see what Jessica says.
It's been 20 years of pushing off commitment, but it was easy to commit to Mark today. I tried to push him away because that's what I do, and he wouldn't let me.
See, the words we say subconsciously gives us away. I tried to push him away because that's what I do, and he wouldn't leave me. That's the book definition of self-sabotage. And we will continuously see Jessica trying to push him away after this proposal as well. This is a comment from Jessica just before they see each other.
This experiment for me has changed my life. I'm 34 years old. I thought maybe this was something that would never happen to me. It happened. It happened.
I'm 34 years old. I thought this would never happen to me. So again, from here, we see that Jessica kind of has this firm beliefs that she heard from maybe the society, and she is so stick to those things. And why you wouldn't get married after 34? I'm 40 and I'm not married, and I'm totally fine with it, and I don't feel like I'm missing a train. But This is the thing. We need to separate ourselves from what society expects from us. Otherwise, we keep self-sabotaging ourselves.
Love is so blind. I'm marrying a 24-year-old.
So again, age difference. This is bugging her so much that she mentions in every line she has. Then the doors open, they see each other for the first time. They seem like they liked each other's physical looking, and then they go to Mexico for honeymoon. And here, the first vibes that I get from Jessica is she is not happy. She is not feeling attracted. And do you remember the barrier she was putting in the pods? And here in the bed, I'm going to stop the episode 4 in this minute, and you will see that how distant she looks from him. He looks very relaxed and enjoying his time, but she is at the very end of the bed. She is again having problem opening up fully because she is so certain in her mind that she's going to deal with the pain of abandonment, which is very familiar to her since the beginning of her life. One of the upper limit problem that Gay Hendricks talk about in this book is that when we are feeling super happy, everything is going so well, suddenly we do something that it will bring our mood down because we feel that we are flawed and we are fundamentally wrong, so that we don't deserve that much happiness. We take ourselves down. And how do we do that? I mean, there are many ways that he mentions. The first one, worry about things that all of a sudden, for example, you're in a very nice dinner, you have a beautiful date, but you suddenly start worrying about, getting that promotion or not, or you worry about, oh, did I leave the kettle on or not, and those kind of worries. Or the second one is maybe creating some kind of argument all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in a very happy moment. What was the third one? The third one is deflecting. You're getting, let's say, a compliment, and then you're deflecting that compliment. For example, for your achievement at work, they're like, congratulations on your promotions. Like, I've been working for 20 years and it was about time. You're deflecting that compliment. Another thing is getting hurt or getting sick. So if we feel that we are getting somewhere much more happier, more successful, suddenly we kind of self-sabotage ourselves by getting hurt, having accidents, or even making ourselves sick. But here what we see with Jessica, she is in a very happy moment. She feels very, very happy, and suddenly, see what she says.
It's so crazy to find someone that mentally is there, and it's deeper than that.
It's deeper than anyone could ever understand. I just worry about your parents. Like, your parents is probably the biggest thing, and they can be the coolest people in the world. But if I'm a mom and I know womanhood, and like when you're a 24-year-old woman and you're a 34-year-old woman, that's two different things.
I know the womanhood. See, again, the firm beliefs that she kind of created in her mind that she clinged to so hard to, and it's so hard to get out of this. And suddenly she mentions, like, I'm worried about your parents. Like, he says, like, you're the woman that I always wanted, and this and that. And she just like, wait a minute, no, calm down. Let's put our mood down a little bit. I'm worried about your parents, and let me remind you again, you're 24 and I'm 34.
My first impression of Barnett, he's very deeply troubled. He's very mixed up, he's confused. I see it all over his face.
Here, what she's doing is mirroring. Sometimes we mirror our own feelings on someone's face. Like, he's very deeply troubled, he's very mixed up, he's confused. I can see it all over his face. Here, I think she's mirroring her own emotions and how she sees herself on him. This is very important. He has said things to me that I have never had said to me in my whole life. Wow. From here, what I understand, when we have no self-compassion, almost zero, what we tend to do is, like, when we hear from other people, I've never said these things to myself even, like, wow, I'm cared and I'm loved. This can be scary for some people though. Let's see what happens.
I do just think there's something sexy about somebody who's just owns who they are.
Absolutely.
And but the guy doesn't know what he wants. Clearly he's an attractive guy.
I think here, if Jessica had chosen Barnett and Barnett chosen Jessica, then it wouldn't work out. Because here, what she's trying to do is trying to think about Barnett could be a better choice for her, and think about this fantasy of like, oh, a happier life, a happier relationship with Barnett, and then this thought, this fantasy will keep her away from Mark. Again, this is a defense mechanism. Again, you're self-sabotaging here. Now, she leaves the age thing behind, and now she talks about physical aspects of things.
The whole age thing that I was so concerned about has not been an issue at all. No. It's been more the physical aspect where I'm struggling. The age thing is not an issue.
Now, she leaves the age thing behind, and now she talks about physical aspects of things. So you see, the reasons keep changing. In her mind, she thinks that he's not going to stay with her forever. He's going to leave her. The age thing didn't matter to Mark. Mark proved himself apparently as an adult, and like now she goes like, age is not a problem at all, but physicality of things is a problem. Why? Because she saw Barnett and she created this fantasy. Now she's creating another problem in her relationship.
I've thought a ton about what our friends and what our family will say about our age difference. And I keep reminding him that that is going to affect our relationship. He's really strong-willed about the fact that we can get through anything. And I want to believe in that, but I'm also realistic.
That will affect our relationship. She's so fixated at this idea that this is going to be a problem. If you are fixated on something this much, guys, you're gonna attract that problem into your life.
Mark loves me unconditionally, but I don't want to be naive to the fact that some people are not going to be happy if we get married. I don't want us to be super disappointed when the real world smacks us in the face and doesn't accept us.
So she's so sure that people are not going to be happy with this age difference, and they're going to be there to hurt them and, you know, take them down and judge them. I think she's worried too much about what others think or say about them, and worry is one of the things, remember, that brings us down in the upper limit problem.
I felt like these guys didn't judge us at all. They didn't ask anything about the age, so I really liked that.
They didn't judge us at all. They didn't ask anything about the age. You can see easily that she's so worried about being judged about this. Here, what I see in Jessica's house, this is the first time Mark sees Jessica's house, and what Jessica is trying to do is again try to push him away, because he's very stubborn. He really likes Jessica and he really wants to make it work. So whatever Jessica throws at him, he kind of finds a way to score. But here, I think Jessica comes full force. So we will see how Mark can handle it or can't.
If I want 3 kids, I probably have to start soon. Dude, if I'm 24, I don't want to be having kids in like a year.
So I'm gonna be.
My parents were like 20. My parents were like, my dad was your age.
Remember Jessica's father? And he wanted Jessica's mom to get an abortion. And when she refused, he left. So these are the same reservations Jessica is having about Mark, who is very close to Jessica's father's age when they got married with her mother.
Again, I'm not your average 24-year-old that is like, I've done like whatever. I've partied, I've hung out, I've lived my life, had experiences.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's like, hey, I want to start having babies soon, but you're 24, probably don't want to start in a year, right? So maybe you should leave me. This is like a way to create reasons so that they leave us. And when they leave us, we feel like, see, I'm not worthy. Feeling not worthy to be kept in someone's life creates these situations that we are left and abandoned. And that's so sad, because there is a reason why she's sticking with Mark for this long and she's not leaving the whole Love is Blind thing. And the reason is not to get famous, but the reason is like there is a connection, and we see in the show that they even build physical connection in time. But here what we see Jessica doing is sabotaging her own relationship by trying to find these horrible scenarios, like everything could possibly go wrong, and she wants Mark to believe 1 or 2 of those so that they can end this relationship.
Guys my age aren't ready for kids. You know, that's something that will drive guys 35 plus away. I don't want him to settle down with me and then regret it.
So Mark makes a very good explanation. It's like, you know, I lived everything I wanted to live in my life. I partied a lot. Now I'm ready for commitment. Guys my age aren't ready for kids. This is like a fact. This is, again, a fixated thought in her mind that she can't get over.
Okay, so let's play this out. We have a kid and I'm like 36.
You look good.
You're 26.
Cool.
The kid turns 14. I'm 50.
Okay.
You're 40.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
It doesn't bother me.
He says, it doesn't bother me at all. But she doesn't stop there because she wants to prove a point.
The kid turns 24. I'm 60. He's 24. I'm 60.
And I'm 50. At that point, it's what, we're both,
Yeah.
okay, we're both in our 50s and 60s. It doesn't scare me.
I'm 60. God damn it. Say it out loud. You can't do this. Like, it's terrible, right? You agree with me, right? Just like call this out. And like, well, Mark doesn't, because Mark really loves her.
Then in 10 years, if the kid's like 8 years old, and I want to move to California, or I want to move back to Chicago, and that's when your parents would be 75 years old. And you've told me that you want to take care of them. So how does that
You know what's awesome? Is
then
that
come into play?
She now finds another catastrophe scenario. So if I want to move to California or Chicago and your parents are here and they're 75 years old, you want to take care of them, what would you do? Actually, this is a good question, because if you have concerns about your elderly family members, of course you need to discuss that before you get married. But the problem here, Jessica doesn't believe the answers she gets. And that makes me think that she's asking these questions not to get realistic answers, but to hear what she wants to hear, which is like, I can't do this. And when she hears the opposite, she doesn't choose to believe that.
Mark is very emotionally available. To me, it's a bit of a red flag.
Being emotionally available is not a red flag. It should not be a red flag. Guys, if you feel like a guy is being emotionally available, yes, that's different from the norm, but it's supposed to be that way, because it's not what you used to seeing among maybe your family members or your ex-boyfriends. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I wish everyone could be emotionally available, but because she's not used to this, what she sees, it looks fake. And she's having a hard time believing it. But again, this is self-sabotage. You need to question yourself. Am I seeing this relationship this way because of my past traumas? Or am I perceiving this as a fake because of what I'm used to?
Because no guy is that emotionally available. I've never seen it, never experienced it. It's like we're watching an experiment on Discovery Channel.
No guy is emotionally available. Guys, no guy, everybody, nobody. These kind of words are fixated thoughts that are very toxic for your thinking. So avoid them at all costs. So now in the catastrophic scenarios of Jessica, none of those things that she laid out worked. So she tries a new thing, a prenup.
Going into a marriage, if I'm really being, realistic, like I would definitely want to put like a prenup in place, like off the bat. This isn't going to be butterflies and rainbows all the time. And that's why you see me tonight. I challenged him and challenged him and challenged him because, I want this to be successful at the end of the day.
I challenge him because I want this to be successful at the end of the day. No, Jessica, you don't want it to be successful at the end of the day. This is why you're challenging him, because you're so believing that it's going to be unsuccessful and you're trying to get there by asking these questions. If we only see the questions, not the background thoughts of Jessica, maybe I could believe this, but because I know what she's going through in her mind in the separate filming, unfortunately I can easily say this. She's not asking this for success, she's asking this to sabotage her relationship. So here, after she has a deep breath, like, okay, this didn't work out, so what else I can do? And she talks about gender roles in the finances. What do you think about this? And then Mark gives an example from his mom, how his mom was successful at this in the household and she was a strong woman. And then suddenly Jessica goes, aha, I found the spot. Now I can dig further. And she goes like, I'm not your mom.
I want to be me though. I don't want to be your mom.
And I'm not telling you, or in
I don't wanna
comparison-
be your parent.
Or in comparison to my mom, no, I would never want that.
Or like recreate your mom. I'll never live up to your mom. I'll
I
never
would
be your
never-
mom. Like
I
you've
would never-
explained her to me a million times. I am never gonna be your mom.
It's just,
Guys, when you're talking about your moms and your mom's standards next to your partners, be careful a bit. But at the same time, here, I think this was the perfect excuse that Jessica was looking for and Mark was vulnerable to. Latin cultures are very woman-dominated, strong mother figure cultures. And if you are dating someone who is from Latin America, you need to consider this, first of all. That you need to know this family dynamic. And the second thing is, if the life has been difficult for them and the mom was a sole provider or sole supporter in those cases, sometimes we can see this adoration towards the mom from the sons. But as long as this does not penetrate into your household and your relationship and the way that your partner behaves towards you, then it shouldn't become a problem. In Barnett's birthday party, she has a little bit too much to drink and she talks to Barnett. In the other backstage interview that she gives, she says like, I saw something on my journal. I had a deeper connection with Barnett. The reason she's so fixated at Barnett at this point, it's because she knows that for her, he is not a keeper. Remember the first time she said, I push people away, I have abandonment issues, I have detachment issues, and also Barnett gives me a player vibe. That's why she's going after, because she knows that it's not going to last long.
I'm not there. You know what I mean? Like, me and Mark are so dissimilar that it's like.
They're so dissimilar. Well, do you remember their date? Their picnic date? She was like, we are the same person.
I've never dated someone who's so much like me. We literally are the same exact person.
Like, what changed in 5 days, I would ask, or 1 week, whatever. And after this birthday, you will see Jessica meeting her best friends and telling them she's engaged. And she will say that, we are made for each other. Like, we complete each other.
He's my best friend. He's my person. Like, I cannot live without this person. I never would have been open to it until I knew this person who is the most beautiful soul ever and feels like he completes my life,
I would say she is not connected to her heart or her soul. There's some disconnect. Either she is putting a barrier like that sofa between what she feels and her mind, or she really wants to believe in something that's not real. She just creates this fantasy and that becomes like her reality and she's really fixated on that. Both things are very unhealthy, actually. There is something that you need to know about people who self-sabotage. Unfortunately, they tend to sabotage other people's relationships as well, unintentionally, because since they are not happy in their own relationships, seeing healthy relationships is very difficult for them and they don't understand how that works. So they try to sabotage them to prove themselves that, hey, look, theirs didn't work either, so the problem is not me. So the world works this way. Unfortunately, unintentionally, I'm 100%, almost 99% sure that unintentionally she's doing this.
So how are you feeling about Amber? Is she everything you expected?
She's actually, it's more than I expected, so.
You never struck me as the person that would go for Amber. And it's
You told me that a
weird
couple
to see it
times.
all come together. I'm like,
You told me that a
holy
couple times.
shit.
Because she sees that her relationship is not working because of her own reasons, and she sees that another person who really she liked is in a relationship which is healthy and it's working. She's trying to get in his head so that maybe they fall apart as well. Not that she's gonna be with Barnett, trust me. If this worked out, if Barnett said, yes, I'm still with you, and they started dating, I am almost 100% sure this relationship would not work out, guys. And that's not, I think, Jessica's reason here. I think it's all about the self-sabotaging behaviors, dynamics working in here. Here, she meets for the very first time Mark's family. Here she says, if I had a son and my son brought home a woman who is 10 years older than him, I think I would be very unhappy. And this is very important. She goes like, I think I'm gonna get grilled. She's so sure again that she's gonna be judged. Well, in the end, she doesn't get judged. Mark's mom is such an mature woman, and then she goes like, I think you being older is better for Mark and better for me because you know what you want in life.
I don't think the age matter.
But
I think
for me, it's
when
just-
you
yeah.
know it.
By the way, do you see, I don't think age matters, but Jessica goes, she says, but right away. It's like, no, age matter. It's not what Mark's mother think, it's what Jessica thinks.
I was expecting a bigger reaction on the age difference, and they didn't give it to me at all. It was easy, so I think a lot of it's in my head.
A lot of it is on my head, which is good, but then.
You know, so far, no one has said anything negative, but I don't think anyone would to your face though, so.
They're not telling the truth, so. See, she's not convinced again. So he's like, no, that's still a problem. I'm still being judged. By whom? We don't know. Then Jessica tries her wedding dress for the very first time. And things become, let's say, more real for her. And this is her reaction.
Whoa,
What do you think?
this doesn't feel right. I don't know. This one doesn't feel right. It feels really pretty.
It feels really pretty.
This one doesn't feel right. Feels very pretty. At that moment, you understand that you don't want to be with Mark. I think Jessica should have left the show that day because she's having this realization that, wait a minute, I don't think I want to get married to Mark. I think she understands that, and in that moment, and when she shows it to her friends understand right away there's something wrong in there. But I want to talk about one thing that she's like, this feels so pretty. There's something wrong. You're not worthy of pretty things. Do you think being that happy, being that pretty is bad for you? If you ever feel that way, for example, if you go to a very expensive clothing store, even though you don't buy it, you try things on and you feel like, no, this is too pretty for me, then there is a problem there. You're hitting your upper limit problem and you're trying to take yourself down. That's another self-sabotaging way. In episode 8, Jessica is being very honest with us, and she says the whole reason why she cannot go forward with Mark, and she was so fixated with Barnett.
Mark has been my rock, and I know that's the right relationship for me. It's just been hard for me to accept that. I've never been able to commit to taking our relationship forward, so I'm scared, to be completely honest.
So our words actually tell where we are at and how we are thinking. I've never committed to take my relationship forward. Such a beautiful sentence which tells us about someone who's having abandonment issues, right? Or attachment issues, basically. In episode 9, Mark asks, well, we are very close to getting married. There are a few days left. What are your reservations? Do you have any reservations? And Jessica says that I am very afraid of commitment, and here are my reservations. You know, I have always done this. You know, I scare people away. And I pick people who doesn't lead there.
Commitment, I think, is scary. It's like the rest of your life. And in the past, I've gone after things that maybe wouldn't lead there, you know? Or I've tried to escape situations that were leading there.
And this is why, at the end, at the altar, she said, no, I can't do with you. And as a reason, this is what she said.
I'm not walking out of here with reservations with a wedding band on my finger. There's no way in hell. Like, I've been around the block. My parents are divorced.
I've been around the block. Again, this tells you what? Past relationships, past traumas. My parents are divorced.
And I'm too much of a realist to take this big of a chance.
Actually, this has nothing to do with being realistic. It's basically the fear of living the past again and self-sabotaging. Finally, a year later, in the reunion, this is what Jessica says.
It's almost like I blinded myself, you know, no pun intended, because I had these kind of thoughts about the age difference, and I annoyed the living
hell out of myself. It's tough watching it back.
She realizes that she hold on to that age difference so-called problem too much. She was fixated on that, and she realizes that right now and acknowledges that. That's great. I normally go after something unavailable. I'm having problem with like people who can accept me and love me the way I am. That explains why she's so afraid to be judged, because she's so afraid to be herself. She thinks that she won't be loved or accepted by who she is. The fact that she goes for unavailable people is a self-sabotaging, because then you will prove yourself over and over again that you're not worthy or you're not loved to be in a committed and long-term relationship. And this explains why she was so fixated at Barnett too, because she saw Barnett as a relationship which will not last long.
I was served whiskey. You know, like I said, the comment was not something that I ever should have said, and that's truthfully not how I felt in the moment, so I don't know how to answer it. I really didn't have those feelings for him at that time.
But Mark was ready to commit. Mark was gonna be there all the time for her, and she just was not ready. She was just not ready to be loved and accepted that way. She still had a lot of fear and reservations coming from her past. I hope this helped you guys a little bit. I will continue this series. There are more self-sabotaging couples, or let's say characters from season 1, and I will be talking about them as well. In the beginning, I mentioned 4 main reasons we feel this way, and I think Jessica's case is feeling fundamentally flawed, because when she was in the womb of her mother, she was abandoned by her father. So that's a very hard case to handle in your adulthood as well. And we see this case a lot in adopted children as well. So they definitely need to know that they're cared and they're worthy and they are loved in their adulthood as well. So I hope this video helped you guys. I'll see you in my next video. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like more videos from me. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.